The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead. We provide programs and services designed to assist and support the older town residents who wish to remain in their homes as they age. If we don't currently provide a service, we will try and connect you to that service. Call 311 or 869-6311 to get more information or receive services.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
Welcome to Senior Talk Radio here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. This is Project Independence and You. I'm your host, John Ryan, and my co-host today is Otto Los.
Morning, John.
Morning, Otto. And this is our first show of the new year, 2021. And both Otto, myself, and Christina are so looking forward to not only one good show, but a year of great shows ahead of us. And there would be nothing better to start off the year 2021 than with our own Chari Biton. And Chari is the mobility manager for the Project Independence and for the Department of Aging. And in that position, and I know Chari for years, she has done the most exemplary job of helping our seniors navigate the tough things of life. I mean, trying to get from one place to another for a younger person, gets on a motorcycle, gets in a car, gets on the bicycle. When you're a senior, but you need to get from A to B, it's depressing sometimes. And that's when you call 311 and we have somebody as wonderful as Chari at the other end of that number, and she will walk you through it. Good morning, Chari.
Good morning, John.
And thank you so much for coming on the show, and Happy New Year.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to you.
I'm going to start off the program by just asking you to explain Department of Mobility. I'm not saying that's the right name. It's not called the Department of Mobility, but however you want to call it, since you are the Senior Mobility Manager for the town.
Sure. So I work along with our fabulous producer, Christina, at the Department of Services for the Aging, which is better known as Project Independence, where we provide a wide array of services for seniors who live in the town to remain living at home and not have to move out when things change. And one of the big things that can be a cause for somebody to move away from their home is suddenly not being able to drive. So we provide services such as taxi service to get to the doctor and for food shopping, so that someone can remain living independently and get around without having to rely on their adult children who are busy with their own lives and have to work. And it's just important also to have a quality of life where you are independent and able to get around. So if you live in the town and you're at least 60, or if you're 25 and up and have a disability, we have taxi to get to food shopping. And we also have taxi to get to medical appointments, as well as dental, optical, physical therapy, or therapist. Do I have a minute to explain how things have changed during this crisis?
Absolutely,
Okay,
please.
great.
We want to hear everything.
Okay, great. I have to say the town of North Hempstead leadership was very quick to respond to the pandemic and immediately implemented safety measures with regard to this taxi service. So when seniors could stay safer and still get to where they need and still be a little bit protected, more protected and at a distance from the driver and so on and other people in the car. So one of the first things was that the town is incurring all the costs. That keeps the senior away from the driver, not having to exchange cash and say thank you. So it's completely free right now to ride with Project Independence Taxi for medical as well as food. Food shopping was always free, but now medical is free. The town even is covering the cost of the tip. Okay. Also, shopping.
I just want to jump in there
Sure.
for one thing. I think that is such a phenomenal bonus that, it's a terrible, terrible time in our country. And between the supervisor and the council to turn around and do something as wonderful as this, because the exchange of money can cause something for a senior, can get a disease going. I mean, we are trying in this town to be as safe as possible, and you, Chari, are doing a great job. So I just needed to throw that in there.
Thank you.
I also have a quick question.
Sure.
Like if you get a ride to a doctor and you're at the doctor's office, a lot of times nowadays you have to kind of wait in your car, and they're going to text you or call you to tell you now you can come in. Would the taxi wait with that person, do you know?
You know, in the beginning, that was more of an issue. I'm not sure if that's still happening now. Certainly, if somebody's mobility was such that they couldn't stand or wait outside or have a safe place to wait, they have told us that in advance, and we have asked for the taxi to wait. I'm not sure if that's still the case. And yeah, so of course, if somebody had a need to wait, they would probably ask that up front. The callback would be routed to me to discuss what the issues were and to add those notes and make sure that the taxi company was aware to accommodate. So just moving forward, shopping used to be 2 days a week, and it was a shared ride where the cab would drive in a loop, picking people up, take a group over and go back, pick up more, etc. Now, got to be alone in the car, no other people except who's in your party. So obviously your family members, anybody who accompanies you, an aide, that's okay. Anyone in your party is allowed to go along with you, but now you can go 7 days a week, and you can go as early as 7 in the morning. You know, after all, there's senior hours at stores that early, so there's less people. It's cleaner because maybe they cleaned overnight. Also, the stocking happens overnight, so you have a better chance of getting those items that are hard to find. And also, we're being very flexible. If somebody tells us they need to go someplace outside where we usually go, we're accommodating. For example, the pharmacy. You now can use the program to get to the pharmacy. Early on, some people say, I need some cash. I got to get to a bank. Well, we accommodated. So just ask the question. While it's not the norm to do something like that, we are going out of our way. Also, we've always said we'd like to know at least the day before if you're going, because we got a lot of rides and we want to keep it straight and give the taxi an opportunity to get organized for the next day. But now if someone calls in and it's same day, we do our best to make it happen, as long as there's a little advance notice so we can get the information over the taxi company.
I think that's a very important point that Chari just made. You know, most people, especially when you're home now, you have a plan, okay? I mean, yeah, an emergency could happen and I need a ride in the next couple of hours, then you can call Chari at 311. However, you know you need to pick up a prescription, you know you need to get some bread or coffee or whatever it is, your normal staples. That's not an emergency. You make your list and you plan for Monday to go. And so you call on Friday and say, I need a ride. You know, what would be a good time Monday or Tuesday? We all have to work together here now.
Right.
You don't need milk in 25 minutes. You know,
Right.
I mean, yes, if something happens, you break the container or some ridiculousness, we're always here to help you. But try to work with us, which is the main thing I'm trying to say.
True. Thank you for that. I just want to add also, this is for non-emergency medical appointments. So if somebody wakes up and has an accident, God forbid, this is not the programs. In fact, 311's trained. If someone calls in to say, it's an emergency, I have to go today, I have whatever symptoms or something happened, they say, well, this is not for emergencies. If something has happened, maybe you need emergency transport, okay? Also, this service is not for somebody who has COVID symptoms. So if anybody is experiencing those symptoms, this is not the way to go.
You know, a lot of doctors now are encouraging, if you have a problem that's not a true emergency, some sort of a health issue, to use telemed. And,
Great point.
you know, the senior themselves may not be able to handle the telemed, but maybe a family member or a friend could help them with that. Because I think that's a great thing. You know, you don't have to go to an urgent care center. Maybe you just have a sore throat or, you know, stuff that can be analyzed by a doctor just by conversation.
Great point. So one of the things that I do as a mobility manager is I brainstorm with people on how to get around, what are the alternatives available. And now that is an alternative. Someone calls in and says, do you take me to my doctor and move to Suffolk County? Well, unfortunately, there's a limit of how far the town's program goes, but then I will add that as an option. Why don't you call the office and see if they'll have a telemedicine option for you? You know, especially now, the less you have to get out, the better. You know, if it's not an emergency, I know people are seeing their dermatologist. You can get very close to the camera to see what the issues are, or, you know, to discuss things, a therapist appointment. You don't have to go in person. So these things do come up, and that's where we just kind of brainstorm and suggest ideas. Somebody has difficulty getting out of the front. So we talk about, well, where else can you get out? What other exits do you have in your house? You know, can you safely get out that way? And if not, you know, sometimes there's things that I need to refer to another team member to help figure things out. Maybe somebody needs, I don't know, a ramp or another type of adaptive piece of equipment for their home or for when they travel.
You know, this is such, go ahead, John, sorry.
No, I don't go, you go.
I mean, this is such a tremendous program. I know several people personally who are good friends who are going into the category of macular degeneration, kind of knocking them out of the ability to drive, or they shouldn't drive, let's put it that way. And I think the fact that people have this in the back of their mind, that you can have somebody drive you, is a very important thing. It's a comfort feeling that, you know, you're going through a tough time. And like John pointed out, the difficulty of being able to move or go somewhere is difficult enough. But when you start to just look at it as a possibility, it's life altering. You know, it changes your whole psyche to what you can and can't do. You know, you can't just hop in the car and go buy a newspaper if that's what you want to do. You can't do that anymore. So you have to think a little bit differently.
Yes, that's one of the things that I'm available to discuss, transitioning from driving. Often people keep the car for driving during the daytime. They give up driving at night, and then maybe they give up driving certain distances or with complicated parking lots, or when they're just having drops put in their eyes. We make it known, you can be a driver and still make use of this program. All you have to be is 60 and live in the town. There is no qualifier. We're not coming to see if you drive sometime. So people should know that this is a service they're entitled to, whether they have a car in the driveway or not. And right now, more than ever, we need our car. If you are somebody who wants to hold on to your driving and your mobility, you know, staying safe with winter driving and being aware of all the things that you need to address about yourself, be it hearing aids or vision, that all these things are very important to maintain your ability to drive while you have it. Keep driving as long as possible, because driving means that you have some more freedom from isolation, especially now. Your ability to get out, see nature, go drive yourself to a park.
You know, you can still drive, but if you're afraid to drive in the rain or in the snow or in certain times, if you're 60 and over, you can use this service. And on a good sunny day in the summer, take your car out. Nobody's questioning that. But it is a sense of freedom. And I'm going to go back to Chari with that. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Before we go back to Chari, I want to say one other thing. Chari did mention that if you have symptoms of COVID, you should not be in it. Now, I have a lot of doctors I go to, and every appointment, you have to answer, do you have a temperature? Have you been outside the state in the last 2 weeks? And have you been in contact with anybody? You owe it to the people in the cab. You owe it to the next person coming into the cab, to be honest. Don't get into a car if you have a temperature and you were with somebody who they said, oh, we had COVID. It's not fair to other people. So we have to, 4,000 people a day are dying. We have to be respectful. That's all. Chari, now pick it up and make it a little bit more lively.
Okay. I'll try. So right now, if you are a driver, because we'll be getting into soon the subject of driving and winter preparedness, um, you are somebody who wants to retain that skill. So being careful about what you do, staying on top of your health, your eyesight, your hearing, all the things that are necessary to have to see when something's happening and react to it. It's all very important. The freedom to drive for somebody who is having vision issues or other health issues or strength in their leg issues, whatever, things happen. But I just want to share with you real quick. My parents are up in Buffalo. My mom has some vision issues. She's still driving. She loves it. In this pandemic, she has found it so important to just get in the car and drive. She's telling me she's not going shopping excessively, but she says that she puts on her audiobooks and she goes for a drive. So there's certain sense of freedom for people who just can't be cooped up and can't look at the four walls anymore. So it is important, if you have the skill to drive, to pay attention to the weather, make some decisions for your own safety and for everyone else on the road. Heed the warnings. If stay attention, we're watching the news for everything else, catch the weather. Is it going to be a sudden dip in the temperature? Might it be icy? And so on. So
I'm going to just jump in here with a personal story, which I've talked about in the past. My mother-in-law is 91 and she has macular degeneration. But other than that, she is in good health and she gets around. But she had to give up her license a couple of years ago. And it is a very, very hard thing because she was the driver of the ladies. They went to church, they got into her car, they went to the diner for breakfast, and they've adapted. But they get the accessory ride and they get the regular cab, but they're paying for all this. And that's one thing that I have to compliment Chari and the town of North Hempstead. Most of this stuff is free. And especially now, Judy Bosworth, who's the supervisor, has put in free for everything. They don't want you exchanging money. But, my mother-in-law is in the city and they don't have any of this. And it's just such a pleasure to listen to these things that Chari's telling us about. But more importantly, take advantage of them. She is here for you. Okay, and that's why Chari is starting off this year on the radio program. We want to have mobility as one of the most significant things in a senior's life, not to be strapped in the house, especially in the dark days of winter.
Yes, and another great thing about the program, being alone in the car is something that's unique. Able Ride right now cannot guarantee you will be alone in the car. Able Ride is the alternate service to the buses, the accessible transportation service for Nassau County. So, this is very important. Some of our cab companies have plexiglass dividers to keep you even safer. We are suggesting to riders you can roll down the window. The cars are being sanitized thoroughly, at least once a day. That's our requirement. And the drivers are wiping down handles and so on throughout the day. So we're doing a lot, and it does make a difference that it's free. Other services might be free right now, like Able Ride and Accessory Ride. They might be. I would call them directly and find out. But what's different is you will be alone in the car for this service. They're not picking anybody up. They shouldn't be picking anybody else up. So that is key as well.
That's a very, very important thing today. And by no means am I an isolationist, but with what's going on and the uncertainty of who is and who isn't a carrier or whatever the word is going to be, it's very comforting to know that my mother would be getting into a cab by herself and having the experience of going to the store. Yeah, in the store, she's going to be the same as everybody else. She should have a mask on, or, everybody has to take their own precautions, or you shouldn't be allowed in. The other day I was in the store and I probably should have said something and I didn't. And there's a woman walking around with no mask on. Really, it was amazing. And I was with my wife and both of us. And then I said, does it look like I'm a big bully to go? I mean, she was a petite little thing. And I'm saying, oh God, I should tell her, but I'm not going to scare her either. I walked away. I didn't go near her and that was the end of it, but I was probably wrong. Because that's not what you got to do today. you got to be concerned about yourself, but more importantly, the others. And so one in a car is phenomenal.
You know, some stores are very diligent. When you walk in, they have somebody actually watch that you have a mask on. But I had the same experience as you, somebody walking around without a mask. And unfortunately, nowadays, you have to be a little apprehensive about what kind of reaction you're going to get from somebody who's not wearing a mask. You know, are they, going to rip your head off because you're infringing on their freedom? Or did they just forget? That can happen. You know, you can forget to put the mask on,
Sure.
but it's a ticklish situation. And unfortunately, it exists. But fortunately, it doesn't exist. With Chari's little mobility group, you have to wear a mask. It's that simple. If you go in the car, it's not an option.
I come out of my car, like Otto just said, and go into my building, and all of a sudden realize I don't have the mask on in my car. I'm by myself. I say, oh my God. And you go back and you put the mask on. It's like, it's for everybody, my own safety included. So you do have to be careful. There's no question about it. And I agree with Otto. You don't know what you're walking into to confront somebody. It should be the responsibility of the store whom you're giving business to turn around and say, excuse me, sir, excuse me, ma'am. We require a mask, not do what you want,
True.
Anyway, what I'd like to do, because it's very, very important to talk about safety within one's car also. And, anybody wants a question in reference to this, you call Chari at 311. And we've covered a lot. We can go back and forth, but at the same time, I want to make sure we get to the listening audience, especially our seniors, safety precautions when you are driving, with ice, with rain, with all the stuff that, winter brings on. There's a lot more to be concerned about than summer driving. So.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Well, first, it's forecasted. When you have bad weather coming up, be it rain, snow, or an ice condition, it's forecasted. So as I said, pay attention, then prepare yourself with the proper gear. Start early if you must go somewhere for an appointment or to get a task done. Give yourself enough time to prepare yourself and get ready. But even prior to that, you want to, in the days before the coming storm that we're hearing about, you need to start getting some of those tasks done and then plan to stay in. So stock up on food, fill your gas tank, pull out your gear from the attic if you haven't found it yet. Get your some of your tools ready, your scrapers and your brushes. Get your shaker of salt. I got an example here. Go out and get some stuff to sprinkle and keep it right outside your door, or even maybe right inside your door, so that when you think it might be shiny or a dark surface, you're not sure what it is because it's early, but the paper's down there. No. So you're going to shake some out, throw it in front of you, and then just give it a few minutes and see if it starts to have that pitted effect. That'll give you an idea that, oh, it's icy here, it's going to be icy further out. And then, plan your footwear. There was a day a couple years ago where the emergency rooms were full of slip and fall. People had no idea there was a clear coating of ice. So that is really important. So anyway, you're going to stock up, you're going to get your medications refilled, you're going to get some food, you're going to charge your phone. And then you're also going to stock in your car certain things that you might need, whether it's to, on a journey, you're going somewhere and then it snows, and you're going to need some things, or if you break down. So one thing you're going to need is something to clean off your car. So this is one we have. It has a telescopic function, so you can make it go really long. And why is this important? Because you got to get on the roof of the SUV. Right? You got to clean off the whole top of the roof, and you got to be able to reach it. So I'm kind of short. Something like this comes in really handy. Of course, we got to clean off the top of the vehicle, or you're left with projectiles. the poor person behind you, you could cause an accident if you don't clean off everything from the roof. You even leave a thin layer. When it melts, it will slide off and become a projectile. So that's important that you're doing, what you need to. And also, what happens when you stop short, right? All that stuff that you didn't get comes down right in front of you, and all of a sudden you can't see. And that's extremely dangerous. And now you got to get out in the middle of a road or a highway to move it off your windshield. It's impossible. So do it ahead of time. Bring along a portable snow shovel, maybe something abrasive like kitty litter or sand, a blanket in case you run out of gas and you're cold, some extra gloves and a hat, things that we don't think about. Maybe you jumped in the car just to go somewhere, and then all of a sudden something happens. Spare medications, you might have forgotten to take a certain medication, or maybe you're stuck somewhere. Some non-perishable snacks. The worst thing is to be stuck somewhere and have a sugar low, or just be hungry. Some jumper cables, anything reflective. So you could just pick up a reflective mesh jacket, that they have for sports or so on. So keep something like that in the car in case you suddenly have to exit the car. Also some paper towels or even an old rag, because sometimes there's something schmutzy on the windshield that maybe a bird caused and you really need to get rid of it.
And I just want to, before we go back to Chari, I'm going to share a story. Chari had said about sprinkling that stuff on your walkway as you come out your door. And okay, she's holding up and she'll come back to that. And I will never forget the day that Judy Bosworth was installed for the very first time, because my wife and I were going to the installation. My wife is one of the most fastidious and she takes care of everything. She's the one that puts the stuff outside and yada, yada, yada. It didn't look that bad. And that might be the day you're talking about. We stepped outside. She slid right off the stoop and broke her wrist. Oh. And we wound up in the hospital. The hospital was mobbed. And it's fresh on my mind because this was 8 years ago. 8 years ago, they had to cut her wedding band off in order to put a cast on. Oof. I had her wedding band fixed for our 40th anniversary, which was 3 years ago. The kids sent us to Paris. As a surprise, I had her band fixed and brought it to Paris. I made it too small. Oh. We just brought it to the jeweler last week to get it finally fixed. And so the guy called me yesterday and said the ring is ready. So she hasn't had a wedding band in 8 years. All because of just a slip. You didn't see it on the ground. And off she went, only have 2 steps. Thank God it wasn't her head. She went far enough out that when she landed, she threw her arms back and broke her wrist. If 4 or 5 inches more, she would have landed shorter. She would have landed on her head. So again, and she's a senior now, but she wasn't a senior then. Anybody can fall. The stuff that Chari's talking about is not just for a senior. It's for anybody. The safety measures when it comes to the wintertime, and we're going to talk more about the car, it's for a 20-year-old driving. Don't get out and think you're a young guy or young woman and you don't have to clean your car because you'll be able to, you're young, you'll deal with it. And having that little kit, which we're going to continue to go over right now, it's unbelievable. You get stuck and all of a sudden you're thirsty, a bottle of water. Go ahead, Otto.
No, Chari in her material used the word mindset. And what you're just talking about kind of goes a little more into that, in that your mindset has to be that something can happen. And you have to focus on the fact that it can happen, which is difficult to do because a lot of times we're off in our own little la-la land, if you will. But when you're going to walk somewhere, like I had sometimes when you get out of a car, you have to be careful because you put your foot down and the next thing you know, your foot is sliding because it hit something. And point again, the mindset thing, you have to always be focused on the fact that you've got to prevent falling, especially in bad weather. And it could be rain, frankly, with leaves that slide, which was my story. The leaf was wet and it slid. But luckily, I didn't hurt myself or anything. But the point being, you have to really pay attention. That's
Agreed.
my story.
No, and it's important. And just before we go back to Chari, my 4-year-old grandson broke his leg 2 years ago. He's 6 now, but 2 years ago, he's going to be 7. But that's some point. There's a huge difference when a 4-year-old breaks his leg, because I'm thinking this is going to be a terrible thing for the next 6 weeks. Within 24 hours, he was walking around. That leg was going up in the air, was going. If I broke my leg, I'm probably going to be in bed for the next month because you don't have the same mobility as you get older. So a break for a senior is a hell of a lot worse than a break for a young person. Back to you, Chari.
Yeah, as well as an accident. An accident to the senior, for a senior, could mean that there's family pressure. Oh boy, time to give up the keys. So we got to be extra careful. I do have some other things to try to get to, but I want to touch on Otto. When you exit a car, there's a handle right as you exit by the door. Okay, it's a grip. It's bolted into the car. Use it to steady yourself. So when you step out, you plant your foot, see if it's slippery, and know what you're getting into. So I want to get through a couple things. We want to prepare the car in advance. You could just take your car over to the mechanic and say, please winterize the car for me. Beyond just checking the tire pressure, the battery, the engine oil, they'll put in antifreeze, which can regulate your engine during extremely cold temperatures. They'll fill up the washer fluid for you. I've heard that you want to use one with methanol. It should have a freeze point of 20 degrees below zero. So you can just take your car to the mechanic, just say, please winterize, and that'll take care of that. Now, if you absolutely must go out, because of course we said prepare, but prepare to stay in, right? But if you absolutely have to go out, maybe it's day 4 and it's time to get out, start early. As I said, you want to put the heater on in the car. That whisks up the moisture in the car. The fogging, we always said to fogger, no, use the heater for at least 2 minutes to remove the humidity. You want to, if it snowed, you want to clear the tailpipe before you start cleaning off your car so there isn't carbon monoxide in the car. You want to clean off the entire roof of the car. You want to clean the windows, the mirrors, that rear camera. And you want to adjust your mirrors to see more of what's in the lanes next to you. Once you head out, you might want to be going really slow because after all, the colder the temperature, the longer it'll take you to stop on snow and ice. You want to keep a large distance between you and the car in front of you. This is not when you can't rush with these things. Set out early. You'll have a lot of time. You're going to drive with the pace of other cars. If you feel unsteady or you don't have a grip of the road and you plan to pull off, or it's a distance until you can pull off, put your hazard lights on. Communicate with the other cars around you that, hey, I'm going to be driving slower and keep your distance from me because I might be having a problem stopping. Both in front of you and back of you, that will help. So you're going to drive at a speed that matches your visibility and the traffic and road conditions. If your wheels start to spin, that's so unnerving. You start to fishtail a little. Then you want to let up on the pressure of your gas until you feel the traction of the road again. So again, driving slower acceleration will give you back that traction. Just stay in the lane that has been cleared by the snowplow most recently. If you know that certain areas of your town or village are icy or have a hill, go the long way. Also, the minute you get out of your car, wherever you go to, you are now a pedestrian. You got to make sure that you're going to be seen. So you want to wear bright colors to stand out and something reflective in case you go into the evening so you can be seen. Most tragedies occur when a driver doesn't expect somebody to be there. That's when accidents happen. So think when you're a driver and you see a pedestrian suddenly mid-block and have to stop, or on a highway, suddenly there's a person getting out of a car. So not only as pedestrian and driver, we got to be more alert when there's bad weather. It's harder to see people when they're stepping out. So you have to be really eyes wide open and alert and checking. You know, some people in some communities walk for religious reasons, and you got to look, okay, what day of the week is it? Maybe there's going to be more people walking. They should be wearing reflective gear, but we can't help what other people do. We want to keep ourselves safe and be alert. That rear camera is so helpful when backing out in a grocery, you know, you're tight behind maybe two big cars, a truck and a van. It's very hard to see what's going on. You don't want to hit anybody, or backing out of your driveway when you have bushes or a big snow pile left by, you know, a snow plow. That rear camera actually shows you what's right beyond that. You know, back out slowly, check again. And of course, when driving, it's checked right, left again. You know, it isn't just one and go, because somebody could pop out, pedestrian or car. So it's just, when there's bad weather, you got to be at your sharpest. Okay. It's not time to go out if you're emotional and something happened in the family, or, you know, just get yourself to have a clear head when you head out. And even more so when there's bad weather, you got to be at your sharpest.
I'm just going to jump in, Chari, just to jump in 1 second here.
Yeah.
What you're saying is so important, because I personally feel that pedestrians are getting more and more lackadaisical. You know, years ago, you used to look both ways before crossing the street. Now you got your cell phone on, you just keep walking. So it is incumbent upon the driver to be careful, because bottom line, I don't care what he's doing. If I hit him, I'm the one at fault. I can turn around and say he was on the phone, he wasn't paying attention, whatever he was doing. He walked out, I hit him, I'm in trouble. And I just find more and more people they don't cross at a light. They cross in the middle of the street, come out between two cars, and then you're right, they're right in front of you. And it's a slippery road. You hit the brake, it's too late. So what you're saying is so spot on and so important for people to pay attention to.
You know,
And the drivers, the minute they get out of the car, they're a pedestrian.
Okay.
When you exit your car, when you parallel park on a busy road, now you exit your car, you're going into the street, right? So you got to be aware. You got to check your own rear view mirror, make sure there isn't a car coming before you swing that car door open, or a bicyclist. So you got to check. And then when you step out, you know, get yourself safely to the sidewalk and then cross at the corner. You don't want to be that person that gets out of the car and just jaywalks and crosses mid-block.
You know what? My father drove a truck for a living, and I remember him telling me when I was very young, when I was just learning how to drive, like in New Hyde Park, for a good example, there's a lot of narrow streets, there's cars on both sides. And he told me, he said, always look a little bit under the cars that are parked. And if you look under the cars, it's amazing what you'll see. You may see feet under the cars, and you know, it's a way to really be able to tell what's going on. You know, I found it as a suggestion that I don't hear very often, to be honest about it. But you know, it works for me. I watch it all the time, and I have seen people's feet under the car. Not that they were under the car, but you can see their feet ahead, and so you slow down.
So, you know, there's a lot of ways to not only pick up on cues around you, but we are communicating to each other non-verbally as drivers and pedestrians. So, you know, first, just say you're walking through the supermarket lot, you have to constantly be scanning to see what's happening around you if a car is about to move. There are signs, right? So smoke from a tailpipe, brake light being on, or simply a human being. You could see the head of somebody sitting in a car. Well, that's a clue. The car might move. You might want to take a step or two to the right. And, you know, there's so much technology available in a newer car. If you're thinking about getting a new car, it's great for the safety features, but that rear backup camera becomes so important. There's also beeping and different types of things to keep you safe before you move into another lane. If your signal's on, it tells you there's a car in the next lane, don't go. So we are also able to communicate with each other non-verbally. Responsible drivers put their signals on to tell you, I'm about to move. Not everybody does that. Some people just go. But it is a way to acknowledge each other when you are waiting at a crosswalk to cross. Someone pulls up and you're just not sure if they're going to roll through. So you do the, and then they do the, and then because you've been communicating that, oh, go ahead, that you're going to be safe to cross. But just make sure that as you step forward, isn't another car that isn't stopping for you. So you have to do the same routine, and then they go, oh, no, you go. So it's a lot of communicating going on. We have signals as a driver that we need to use, our directionals, our hazards. And then as a pedestrian, the minute you're out of your car, you have a responsibility to check and make sure, anybody who's of right mind will take those extra steps. But sometimes people out there that are in a rush, or they're just laxed in their driving skills or their responsibility. But we just need to look out for ourselves. It's so important.
Here's a terrible story. Again, Otto.
No, the directional signals is one of my pet peeves, I guess. I wrote an article for the Project Independence newsletter a couple of years ago about signals. And it should be something that no matter whether you need to use the signal at a particular point or not, it's just an automatic thing. You're going to make a right turn, put the signal on. And you get to the point where you don't even think about it. I did a survey when we did that article with about a dozen people about do they use signals, and if they do use signals, that's great. But if they didn't use signals, why? And most admitted they were too lazy. And I'm saying, what the heck? You go like this, you go like that, big deal. So just make it a habit. You're going to make a right turn, put the signal on. You're going to make a left turn. It's a simple enough thing to do. It doesn't require a whole lot of energy.
What about stopping a complete stop?
That's another pet peeve of Otto's.
Do you really not have a fraction of a second in your day that you can't make a full stop? It's the stop sign. You must stop completely, whether there's somebody there or not. If you're in the habit of doing it all the time, you'll do it when there's a pedestrian there.
Well, that's an interesting one too. We actually had an article a number of years ago about stop signs. And I had my friend who lives around the corner. He likes to have a beer once in a while. So I bought him a few beers and I told him to sit on the corner by him. And I want him for 1 hour to do a count of the cars with the stop sign. It was a nice day. So he, he's sitting there watching all the cars, and at least half didn't stop at all. And a lot of them just sort of, glide right through it. But they're not options either. They're there for a reason. Now, I will admit, like where we live in New Hyde Park, just about every corner has a stop sign. And you get to be a master navigator at trying to avoid the streets that have all the stop signs. But, they're still there for a reason. And, you as annoying as it might be, it's going to take you another minute to get somewhere. But stop at the stop signs, period.
No, I agree with you 100%. And I want to go back to what Chari was saying also. It is incumbent upon everybody to be careful. And this is a true story. The 10th anniversary just happened a week and a half ago. I was talking to my mother-in-law, and I happened to say the day for whatever reason, and it bothered her because 10 years ago, I think it was the 12th of December, 13th, she and her girlfriend were going to the New Hyde Park Inn for some sort of a Christmas celebration. And they didn't cross at the light. They crossed in the middle of the street, and it was dark, and there was nobody coming from east to west. So they went across, and there was somebody coming from west to east, a truck. He stopped for them and told them to go. So they proceeded to go, but it's a 2-lane street. And the other car coming had no idea why the truck was stopping, and he hit the both of them. My mother-in-law was in the hospital for 2 or 3 months, and the other woman died.
Oh,
It
wow.
wasn't the boy's fault. It was a boy, which means nothing. He was 19 years old or whatever he was. He was going the speed limit. The truck stopped. You don't see people all of a sudden, and because the truck let them go, they were all thankful, getting ready to go to the Christmas party, just stepped right out. And boom, taken out. And I was in New Jersey. I remember at my brother's house, when we got the call, we had to leave and come to the hospital, whatever. It's, buyer beware. This is pedestrian beware. And the guy behind the car, you see a truck. I don't like ever behind a truck. You never know what's going to happen in front. You see his truck stopping or something, you got to slow down. This poor kid, I'm sure he's scarred for life, but he did nothing wrong. Everything he was doing was right. He was going 30 or 35, but if I walk into the front of a car going 35 miles an hour and I get hit, I'm in trouble. And that's what happened. And what everything Chari is saying. Otto?
No, this thing right here, I've seen a number of people walking across the street doing this.
With the cell phone.
Yeah. And they're not looking. As far as they're concerned, they're out in a pasture somewhere on a farm. They got so absorbed with what they were doing, they don't realize that they're walking into a dangerous street. So as a driver, you do have to pay extra attention to the pedestrian situation. But as a pedestrian, you really have to pay a lot of attention. Pedestrians get hit all the time, and it's not a good thing, as you just said, John. That's a sad story.
Oh, it's terrible. And the boy wasn't wrong. That's the point. This was a situation that he did nothing wrong. I'm sure he was sick for months, but he did nothing wrong. Chari?
For a senior, pedestrian safety is really important. Not just a small injury could bring on a downward spiral, and we've seen it happen. Everybody knows somebody where things have happened. That's why the Project Independence has me going out and doing pedestrian safety presentations to senior groups. Before the crisis, I was going out regularly and doing it, a regular guest as part of the fall prevention series that the Project Independence nurses run, as well as going out to social groups. It's always part of the winter, any presentation I do, be it driving or staying safe in ice and snow, I sneak in a segment on pedestrian safety. And one thing we know about seniors, it takes them longer to cross the street. So one of our fellow Project Independence members had done a study about that. It can take twice as long to cross the street, especially if there's compromised mobility. So it's even more important not to try to shave off a few seconds by crossing mid-block. You got to go to the corner where a driver will actually expect to see you, where there's a stop sign or a light or a corner. And, they're not, if you're looking out anywhere for a pedestrian, it's at a corner. And then if there's a countdown clock light, you got to press the button and wait for it to go to the beginning. Pressing the button sends a signal to the computerized countdown clock to give you more time to cross the street. If you don't press that button, it may never even give you a countdown clock. So some people don't realize that. Press the button, you'll have the maximum amount of time to cross the street. Otherwise, the timing of the lights is for flow of traffic. Okay, think Northern Boulevards going east-west, people rush into the city, out to the island. You want to cross Northern Boulevard, you got to press the button and you'll get a long time to cross the street. Otherwise, you don't have a chance. It's not enough time. You could be halfway across and it starts to change to the red countdown. If you experience a corner where you think that there needs to be more time, you can call 311 and we'll have the right department look into it, depending on what, if it's a village, town, county, state, we have to look into who's responsible for that area and for the signage. But yes, one of the most important takeaways with the pedestrian safety information that we give is that you have to take control yourself. You can't trust anybody else is going to stop for you. The onus is on you to take care of your own safety, because we got too much to lose. We're skin and bones against 2-ton vehicles that are in motion. we don't have a chance. And for a senior, it can, somebody has a fall, it could be devastating to their health and their future. Young people as well, but seniors, even a bump, something happens, a small fall, so why take a chance? So that's one of the important messages we like to get out. I'm glad we'll have an opportunity to do this with the video, since I don't know when we'll be back to in-person meetings and seeing our seniors for a little while. But certainly I am available if anybody wants to discuss anything involved with driving, transitioning from driving, pedestrian safety issues in their area. Very often in these presentations, people give direct feedback to me, which I go back and I try to work on. We had a long-running pedestrian safety initiative in Great Neck where we got a lot of feedback from advisory members and from safety presentations that crosswalks needed to be repainted. We reported to the right areas. They were repainted very quickly. The state roads might take a little longer, but if it's county, we can get it done fairly quickly, assuming there isn't snow on the ground. So just know that there is a process. We are listening, we are responsive, and if there is something that can be done to make things safer in your area, then you just call 311 or the full dial number 869-6311, and you can reach a call taker who could book a taxi ride for you. You could ask for me, Chari Biton, and we can go over your personal mobility issues, questions, concerns. I can tell you how to use the taxi program in detail. And by the way, anybody who books a ride for the very first time will get a call from me, taking the person through anything important they need to know. Make sure that they know the correct phone numbers to call, to go home, or if anything should come up.
Perfect. Chari, we're out of time. I want to thank you so much for everything. It's really tremendous what you do for us and the town, but more importantly, what you do for our seniors. You've been listening to Senior Talk Radio here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. And please remember, 311, ask for Chari if you have an issue with driving, with transportation, with anything. She's there to help you.